just because you have an understanding of the Bible in your head doesn't necessarily mean that you have Jesus in your heart.
Get right, get inside, get hungry, got appetite. Everlasting water, never get thirsty. To disputed lands, take a journey.
You are listening to Chad Schaefer on Disputed Lands.
And we are live. It's not Monday. No, it's not Monday night, so don't get confused. It is still Saturday, but it is Disputed Lands. We are here to wrap up our finale with two very special people to me, and I'm just going to bring them on the screen right now. We're going to say hi to Josh and Christina Peck, live on Disputed Lands, Saturday night to end this marathon. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hey, how are you doing, Chad?
Thank you.
Can you hear
so
me?
much. Yes.
Yeah, can you hear us okay?
Good. Yeah, it looks like there's just a slight delay while it catches up, but that's okay. This is going to be very casual tonight. You guys may not catch that many Disputed Lands shows. We're nothing close to professional over here. I mean, I got a green screen, I got a little bit of a mic, but there's an expectation that's not too high around here. It's kind of casual. So we're just gonna talk with you guys. I've got a few questions written down, but basically, I wanted to bring you on here to just ask you a couple questions, give you an opportunity to talk to the folks that have been hanging out all day and watching the marathon. Maybe share some stories about the guys and gals who were interviewed today, and maybe talk about, just reminisce, just hang out. To those of you guys who are watching live in the chat right now, if you guys have questions for Josh and Christina, they want you to ask them. We'll post them right here up on the thing. Don't forget, as if you don't know already, on the screen, you see right now, dailyrenegade.com. That's where you need to go to subscribe. We're going to talk about some other things that I just found out about today. Maybe they just found out about them today, but we're going to talk about those too. But Josh, you were never expecting this question, but it's one that's been burning my gizzard for years. And
Why don't I believe in flat Earth? Is that the one?
No.
I'm kidding.
This is going to be a very simple one.
When
I actually, Josh, you and I became friends probably when you first hit Facebook.
Yeah.
I found you via, I think it was Kay Carswell or something. You'd done an interview on there. But I was friends with you right off the bat, and I saw a video you posted of you talking about your very first book you published. I don't know if it was in a school or in a church room. Well, so my question first, where was that recorded?
I love this story. And by the way, I want to say to you and your amazing audience, I love you, Chad. I love your audience. You guys have been just phenomenal. I can't believe that you actually offered to take this on. I mean, for people watching, I didn't ask Chad to do this. We didn't ask. He contacted us and he offered this to us. And I was like, are you sure you actually want to do like a whole marathon like that? Like, I wouldn't want to do that. You really want to do that? And it was his idea. He wanted to do it. And so we were like, yeah, absolutely. What an amazing friend. And Chad, we just love you to death. And thank you so much for that. And that's a great first question, because I didn't know. I was watching some of the interviews that you did earlier today. I didn't know that had influenced you so much. And that really means a lot to me. When I recorded that, which, by the way, I'm going to tell the story, but I'm going to state today, funny timing, right? Today, our YouTube channel got deleted. And unfortunately, that was one of the videos that was deleted. So there's no record of it anymore, which is really unfortunate. We were expecting this to happen, and we were looking up some solutions on how you can download an entire YouTube channel to be able to back it up. We do have dailyrenegade.com, which has a lot of our videos, but a lot of the older ones, unfortunately, we weren't able to back up before YouTube deleted our whole channel. So today I woke up this morning Found out YouTube deleted the main Daily Renegade YouTube channel. We do still have dailyrenegade.com. We put all of our videos on there, and we have a backup channel that we're using. It's youtube.com/JPD Weekly if people want to check that out. We'll be posting on there more, but that was one of the videos that got deleted. And when I saw that, in one of the interviews that you did today, you mentioned that meant a lot to you. That really blew my mind, because at the time, here's the whole story on how that happened. I was a big time New Ager, you could say occultist. I was really into that kind of stuff before I really got saved and dedicated my life to Christ. And I had come out of that. And I was praying to God, there's got to be some, and there's a whole backstory there that probably a lot of people are familiar with. If they're not, they can find videos that I've done where I get into the whole thing, but that would take hours of our time tonight. So I'll just say, I had a time where I was like, okay, the occult, the New Age stuff, that's not the way. Jesus is more powerful. What do I do now? Jesus is the truth. Like that's real. So what do I do with it? And I prayed the first honest prayer I think I've ever prayed in my life, and I asked Jesus for help. And this one day, I was just scrolling through videos on TiVo. So I'm dating myself if we remember TiVo at all. It was during the TiVo days. And one of the programs on there was called It's Supernatural with Sid Roth. And I didn't really know what that was or anything. I was brand new to Christianity. I mean, I was raised in it, but it was like a really fundamentalist, kind of thing where it denied supernatural stuff. And so I was brand new to like real, active, living Christianity, where the supernatural is real and sometimes it does affect our lives. I was brand new to that, because before that I thought, well, New Age occult, that has all the supernatural answers. It doesn't. Christianity does. I didn't know it at the time. So I clicked on the show. It's Supernatural with Sid Roth. I decided, hey, let's check it out. I'll watch it. So I was sitting there watching it. And at this time in my life, I was depressed. I was hooked on opioids. I have a rare bone disease. And so I had to be on all these painkillers because of that. And that naturally is going to cause depression. I mean, I didn't have motivation to do anything. I wasn't a very good husband to Christina at the time. It was a really rough, it was just a rough time all around. I watched the show, and Sid Roth had this guest on who I'd never heard of before, but who I thought kind of had a very, interesting and memorable name, L.A. Marzulli, who I know that you've interviewed tonight. And you said that he was a big part of your kind of upbringing in the spiritual. I mean, this guy, he was like the inception of all this for me. He was the guest, and he was answering all these questions in this short half-an-hour program. He was answering every question I had about aliens, how they fit into the Bible, what the mark of the beast could be, all this stuff that my church, when I grew up, did not want to talk about, but I was interested in. And that launched me into the New Age, because I thought Christians just didn't have answers for this stuff. He was proving all that wrong and saying, no, Christianity actually has the answers. They have better answers than New Age. And even more interestingly, LA came out of New Age. And so he told his whole story through that program. And my mind was blown. So I recorded the program when Christina came home from work, because again, I was on disability. I was on painkillers. I wasn't doing anything for anybody. It was just a really bad situation in my life. So she was the one that was working and making money for us to survive on. She came home, and I said, honey, you got to watch this. And so she sat down, we watched it together, and our whole lives changed at that point. That one L.A. Marzulli interview totally changed our lives. So we didn't have much money at the time. At the time, all I knew was L.A. Marzulli. That's all I knew. I thought one guy had some answers here. Turns out there's a whole community that has these answers. So when we first started, I was buying. We didn't even have the money to do it, but we were buying L.A. Marzulli books and videos, and then that led us to other people like Tom Horn. I learned about Tom Horn, and I was like, oh my gosh, this guy Tom Horn, he's saying a lot of the same things. And then I was learning about all these other people, many of who that you've had on this marathon, Michael Heiser, Doug Woodward, all these people. And I was like, my mind was blown. There was actually a community of Christian believers that wants to talk about this stuff and that actually has better answers than anything I've ever heard in the New Age. So I totally rededicated my life to Christ at that point. And Christina and I, for the first time ever, she would probably agree with me, but we actually really started like our spiritual marriage at that point. Now we were married, and it was spiritual in the sense that we were dedicated to each other, but we didn't get along very well. We had a lot of differences, and there were just a lot of problems. But finally, we had found something that we could ground ourselves in, which was that the Bible is real, and it doesn't matter her upbringing or my upbringing, because we both had very different upbringings. I was brought up very fundamentalist Baptist. She was brought up more charismatic, Pentecostal, Messianic. Yeah, that kind of stuff. And so, I mean, it was like worlds collided at that point and created this created this new thing of Josh and Christina, and it really blew my mind. So we started praying together. We started doing Bible studies together, which we'd never done before. And but while that was going on, I started noticing I was having a lot of spiritual attacks from the enemy. I was having a lot of demonic. Christina was too. We were having shared sleep paralysis issues, which I've never even heard of that before. But there were times that her and I would both go into sleep paralysis, and we would both be attacked in the same way. We would see the same things, and I've never heard of that. But we were both dealing with that. There were times where we were totally awake, and at the time we had an atheist / Wiccan kind of roommate person. She didn't know what she was, but
before that was before.
No, this was in the trailer.
No, I know. But we saw L.A. Marzulli after Brooke moved out.
Okay, yeah. No, actually, she's right. She's right. So I'm crossing my timelines here.
We had Jacqueline. She was a baby.
Right.
When we discovered, when you had discovered Sid Rock.
The atheist roommate was when I was in New Age stuff, and we were getting attacked. Yes. And then I really became a Christian, which Christina was like really happy about, because she was a Christian through this whole time, and she was behind the scenes. She was praying for me.
My wife sets me straight all the time on.
I know, right? Thank God for our wives, because I don't remember. I can't remember like dates and times. And
my wife sets me all the time.
Yeah, exactly. I thank God for my wife, because if it wasn't for my wife, I would never know what my history was, because I wouldn't be able to keep anything straight. But yeah, so that's correct. So it was during the time after the atheist roommate moved out. And that's a whole story too, which I've talked about before. And if people have a question about it, I can talk about it more, but I don't want to waste too much time on things that probably a lot of people already know. During that time, before the L.A. Marzulli thing, we were having difficulties in our marriage and stuff. Then we saw that. And then we had something that we could connect on spiritually. And who knew it was the truth, right? That was the thing that we actually we were lacking, was just a good spiritual truth that both of us could agree on and really focus on. So we did that, but we were still dealing with some of the sleep paralysis stuff. We were still dealing with demonic attacks. We were still dealing with a lot of this stuff. So all we knew at the time was L.A. Marzulli. He went through this. He had issues. So I talked to Christina and I said, I know this sounds totally crazy. This guy's been on the History Channel. He's on TV. But I think I want to reach out to him. I think I might want to try to email him. And at this time, I didn't think it was even possible, really, to get in touch with anybody that's been on TV. I mean, I was raised by TV. I didn't have a dad growing up. My mom was a mess, and it was just a bad situation. I was kind of like the cable guy, if you remember that Jim Carrey movie. I was the kid that was raised on TV. So like I thought like these guys are untouchable. If somebody's on TV, you don't get to talk to them. But I decided to try anyway, and I sent LA an email, and I basically said, "Hey,
I felt the same way." Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was like, I've just come out of New Age. I've just become a Christian, but I'm still being attacked. When you came out of New Age, did you deal with this too? And then what did you do about it? So, and it didn't take long, maybe a day later, his lovely wife, Peggy, emailed back and said, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know this is LA's wife, Peggy. He read your email. He really wants to talk to you. He wants to help you out. He's on the road right now, but can he call you, in a couple of days or whenever his next convenience was? Can he call you and talk to you? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. That was like a dream come true, because at this time, this was the guy for me that had the answers. This was somebody, I didn't like worship him or anything, but this was somebody, the first person in my life that actually had answers to the questions that I was asking and didn't dismiss me because the questions were stupid or crazy. Sorry, go ahead. No, sorry, it sounded like you were going to say.
See, for the first time all day, slight delay. Yeah, there's a slight delay. First time all day, have not had any issues. Keep telling your testimony. I'm going to reset some things off here and off screen, but I'll be back in. So just keep talking, keep telling your testimony while I fix this, okay?
Sure, yeah, not a problem. And I can ask people in the chat. I actually have the chat up if people are viewing this live on YouTube. Is anybody else seeing a delay right now? Because what's difficult, because I do live streams too, and it's always hard to know where the problem is. So if you're viewing in the chat, let us know. Are you seeing a delay too? Because that will help us kind of pinpoint what the problem is. Somebody's asking, can you spell out the name Marzulli? It's Marzulli. Okay, Karen is saying Chad was freezing. Were Christina and I freezing at all? That's a good question to ask. Okay, it looks like it was just on Chad's end. Okay. Karina saying that. So thank you, everybody in the chat, for helping out. So I can continue with the story. Chad's gonna... okay, good. We got a couple other people saying there was some freezing in the beginning. Some people are saying no delay. It looks like it was on Chad's end. Okay, so we can continue. Right. We can continue with the story. Yes. So, where'd I leave off?
L.A. Marzulli.
Oh, he was going to call. That's right. Yeah. See, that's all it took. So yeah. So he called and he basically, we talked and to me, this was a mind blowing thing. Like I couldn't believe this was actually happening. But he guided me in basically spiritual warfare 101. It's a lot of things that if I were to tell you now, you would think, well, that's really basic. We all know that. And good for you. Most of Christianity doesn't know that. Most of mainstream Christianity does not know the power in the name of Jesus Christ. Most mainstream Christians don't know that you can say, in the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to leave, and then the demons will leave. Most don't know that. I didn't know that. So he talked to me about that. He talked to me about using, anointing oil over doorposts and, that kind of stuff. And so after that, I did what he said. I used the name of Jesus to cleanse the house, and it worked. And, after that, it was just really good. But that inspired me where I thought, okay, I want to be like LA. Like I really want to be like LA because that guy, man, he inspired me so much. I wanted to write books. I wanted to do conferences, and I wanted to do my part in, he was doing in that same effort of waking up the church to say, hey, you don't have to stick with just this fundamentalist stuff. The fundamentalist stuff is good. Like it's good for a foundation, but there's more to it. So I don't hold anything against the fundamentalists. I mean, that's a good foundation, but there's more to it. There is power in the name of Jesus. These gifts were not done away with after the apostles. The cessationist spiritual worldview is not correct, in my opinion. And I wanted to do my part. So going all the way back around to Chad's question, I wrote my first book, Disclosure, unveiling the secret role in the War of the Ancients or something. It was a long subtitle, which was kind of funny and sort of prophetic because Tom Horn has a lot of long subtitles, and I did the same thing. And I at that time I didn't really know Tom Horn at all, but I wrote my first book, Disclosure. Didn't know what I was doing. Never wrote a book before. And it took a long time, and it was really difficult because I didn't know the process. I've learned a lot since then. But so I wrote that, and I started I started a podcast. The thing that Chad was talking about with the presentation thing, I wrote the book. I had only done maybe one or two like small interviews. And I thought, I really want to go and speak at conferences, but I need to get ready for it. I need to be prepared. I need to know what I'm in for, what I'm in for. So I actually, and it's funny, Chad, that you said this because Christina was the only one in the audience.
That was my question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my other question.
Yeah.
This was in that trailer that I've talked about. That trailer was like, enemy territory, central. And but I had set up just a simple camera. I think we had
our green digital camera.
Yes, yeah. And
I got the tripod. I set it out.
Yep.
And I sat in a chair and I watched you.
And I thought, like, okay, I need to actually have something out there where I'm doing a presentation. So if somebody's interested in bringing me on, there's something that I can send them to show that, like, I can do this. And Christina was the only audience. So, to me, that's the biggest audience that I've ever spoken to, was way back then. Yeah, that first thing. My wife was the biggest audience I've ever spoken to. But yeah, and I did 2 or 3 of those, and I just got practice. I learned PowerPoint. I learned how to edit, and I learned how to do like video editing to put the slides in. I learned like a lot of that stuff through that process, which actually played in later. So I did that, and it did okay, but like you mentioned too, that there wasn't an audience for it really, but I didn't know at the time. At the time, I was just doing it for practice. I didn't realize that would actually inspire people down the line. And now, I guess technically my direct boss, Joe Horn, I don't even think of him as a boss because we're such close friends, but technically he is my boss. He's the COO of Skywatch TV, Joe Horn. He's Tom Horn's son. Tom is the CEO. He's the chief operating officer. But he and I become so close, but it was through that and through Michael Lake. And actually, I do want to talk about some of the people that you've already had on in a moment, but it was just through a lot of circumstances, people helping us out, that Tom became aware of us. Tom Horn became aware of us, and he saw in me what I always hoped I had in myself, which was just this drive to get the truth out, this hard work ethic, and all that I was putting online at the time without any guarantee that it was going to lead to anything. But at the time, I always believed, if I can just reach, a few people or one person, like I know it's cliche to say that, but it's cliche because it's true. A cliche is a cliche because people say it over and over again, but that doesn't mean it's not true. It means it resonates with somebody. So the cliche is like, if I can only help one person. But that's how I really felt. If I can lead one person to Christ, or if I can help one person realize that there's more to Christianity than just the fundamentalist stuff. Again, I'm not saying anything against the fundamentalist stuff. That's it. They are the people that introduced me to Jesus, so I can't say a bad word about him. I wouldn't even know about Jesus had it not been for them. But I wouldn't consider myself a fundamentalist today. But there's more to it than that. And if I could just reach one person with that message, then my whole life is worth it. My whole life, everything that I'm striving to do is worth it, and it makes sense, and everything fits together. So that video that you saw, that was me practicing for basically what I'm doing today. And even today, I still have that same thing as this Christina. We both have that same mentality. Like, if we can just, instead of now where it was, if we can just reach one, now it's, if we can just reach one more. So that's how we kind of do our ministry today. If we can just reach one more, then it's worth it.
No, absolutely. No, and I get it, but I just remember thinking, man, that's cool. I can't even, Josh, I know it was about the book that you had published and that you were doing that, but I can't even remember the details of what you said. What impressed me more than anything is that you had the gumption, they call it, the Jewish word is chutzpah, to even do it. And, with what you had, anybody watching that, it's not like you were trying to put on any airs there. That's what another old saying, put on any airs. You were in this trailer, and, it wasn't those professional studio. You had the simple camera, tripod, and as you went there with the simple camera, and you just did it. One of the biggest things that I talk about on Disputed Lands often, and they will tell you this, those who listen regularly, is just do whatever you're called to do.
Yes.
You say, well, there's so many I don'ts or I can'ts that are getting in the way. It's like, no, you weren't called to do with all that. What do you have? Do with that, with what you've been given, right? Because that's where you start. You do with what you've been given. If you're faithful in that, the Lord blesses and brings the rest of it later. Yeah. But you got to be faithful with whatever He's been given. You've been given first, and that is the biggest thing that stuck to me, is that you had the gall to do with what you were given. And then it wasn't not long after that. I can't remember the time frame. My wife's not here to tell me exactly what.
How dare you? Was. I'm so deeply offended. I thought we were friends.
It wasn't long after that you started the sharpening report as well, and you started doing interviews with people. So this is a few years before Skywatch TV, at least I think 2 or 3 years before Skywatch TV. You were doing the sharpening report. I was like, man, he's still doing stuff. He just don't care. He's just going to be obedient and go with it. And I was like, man, this is so cool. And for those of you who don't know, Josh will talk to you, but he prefers to text. Mm-hmm. So I would text you from time to time. Hey, Josh, this is really cool. Whatever. You're always great to reply and everything. But I'm going to share this story, and then you can share some other stories. So this is a few years later. But first, I want to say this too. Still today, I have bookmarked in one of my favorite episodes is your interview on Canary Cry Radio, where you talked with Basil and Gons for like 3 or 4 hours.
Is this the Gary Busey one?
That's still one of my favorite episodes. I have it bookmarked because on a stormy night or something, when I actually have some time to relax, I'll go out on the porch or whatever with coffee, and I'll sit and listen to that and laugh like an idiot by myself on the porch or whatever.
I don't think we even got so much the content of the book in that interview. We just talked about Gary Busey and like phone booths in apartments, and we just talked about like weird, crazy stuff the whole night. It was so much fun.
So you did the sharpening. Yeah, and I froze again. I have had no issues all day long. There's my boys who use the internet and the bandwidth aren't even here right now, so I have no idea what's causing this issue. Reset everything. Anyway, Lord help us. Let me get some good connection here for the rest of the show.
Amen.
So anyway, but I remember. This is so frustrating. I am so sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah, I didn't hear anything
trying
you said last.
To get my story out, and my internet keeps freezing.
No, it's totally fine. However, we have to do this, even if it. I don't know. You can even put questions in the chat if you need to, and we can answer them. But whatever you got, I totally understand it because we there's that as well.
I have had no issues all day, been running highest thing. And now all of a sudden I can't do anything. But so what I was saying is this was a rare occasion. So this would have been, I don't know how long have you been at Skywatch?
About what, 4 years, maybe 5, 4. I think it was
4 years.
She would know. Yeah. 4 years. Yeah. 4 years.
4 years. Okay. So 4 years. So this was about 4.5 years ago. About to have a meltdown here and call my internet provider. This is making me mad. Okay, so 4.5 years ago, this was before I had published my book. I was just finishing up, writing with Doug Krieger and everything, and I was excited about it because I'm starting to see the light at the end of the day. We were probably halfway through, but it was going somewhere. I'm like, I'd done writing. I had actually taken a break, and I'm thinking, well, now what do I do with myself? You know, I I got nothing scheduled. I got a break. Everybody's busy, and you posted, which was a rare occasion for you on Facebook. Hey, does anybody want to chat? I'm available. And I'm like, something's going on with this guy.
Yeah, I don't
Because
usually do that.
something's going on. So I called you up. Yeah, no, not typical Josh. So I called you up and we were talking. You never shared anything exactly what was going on, but I could tell something was up.
No, just
And I was excited for you. You're
sometimes
like,
I want to inspire like fellowship in the
well,
community
I can't
because
tell
like
you exactly
we talk
what's
a lot
going on,
about
but just be in prayers that everything works out.
yeah. Yeah, I mean we all talk a lot online, but sometimes you know, sometimes it helps having that one-to-one. I know Doc Marquis, you know, before he passed, obviously not after he passed, but before he passed. I mean, Doc was such a good friend of mine, but he, one thing I really admired about him, and I never had the I never had the courage to do. He gave his public, I mean, he gave his phone number out to anybody who would want to call him. I never had the courage to do that. So every once in a while, there were times where I was just like, okay, who wants to talk? You know, if you're available, I'll talk to you. And it doesn't happen often. I almost never do it anymore, but yeah, I remember I remember that. So go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt. You there?
Uh, can you hear me?
I think we got a like a major delay or some issue going on. Can you hear me okay?
Okay. Yeah, you're fine. I'm going to try one more thing.
Okay.
And then I'll be right back. Just keep talking. Maybe share a story. I do apologize. I'm going to try one more
It's
thing.
okay. You can't help it. No, you can't help it. It's totally fine. Yeah, we can fill the time. Don't even worry about it. Actually, let's let Christina talk for a while. So probably I would imagine people are wondering what is going on with Nathan? What have been the recent developments? There might be a few that are totally new to this whole thing. So can you give us like just a brief rundown of what's happened? You know, from the beginning of time. No, I'm just kidding. No, like from the beginning to where we are now, and then can you like more in detail, like give people kind of a feel for where Nathan is now and what's been going on in our lives?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So February 12th of 2019, so last year, Nathan was diagnosed with T-cell leukemia. Before that, in late January, he was first misdiagnosed with cat scratch disease. And his CBC, his complete blood count, showed a slight elevation, but in his white blood cell count. And the doctor had said that it mirrored cat scratch fever and that his swelling would go down within a month. 2 weeks later, about 2 weeks later, it was getting larger and I knew that it was something different. So I took him to another hospital to get a second opinion, and they found that it was leukemia. And I was pregnant with our youngest, who is almost 13 months old now. I was about 35 weeks pregnant when he was diagnosed with T-cell leukemia. And we were given the choice to either go to St. Louis, Kansas City, or to go to Tennessee, to St. Jude, and we chose St. Jude's. And we were there for a little over 3 months, and that is where they discovered something was written into Nathan's DNA, where when he was developing in the womb, he was born with the cancer. They were able to, I don't know how they did it, but they were able to trace it back to the development in the womb, that there was a strange mutation that occurred while he was developing, and that is what caused T-cell leukemia. There's a majority of the children with leukemia is called B-cell leukemia, which is the most common type of blood cancer. T-cell is second most common, but it's also very tricky because it's far more aggressive than B-cell. And how there was a mutation, we don't know. It could have been the environment where we were living. In Michigan, I could have been exposed to something at work, could have been exposed to something in our neighborhood while I was pregnant with him. We don't know. And so we went to St. Jude, and there they took wonderful care of him, and he went into remission on April 4th, 2019. And we gave birth to our daughter, Lily, in a hotel room in Memphis, Tennessee. And what they tell you, I mean, after we were given the go-ahead to go home, that is when the real work began. I mean, all of a sudden I have to replace my air filters. I've got to make sure my house is immaculate, and the common cold is a plague to me. You know, with a child with an immune system that is compromised. And so this whole time of being home since May 16th of last year, it's been a challenge, but nothing we can't handle, because
Lily made everything easier. Surprisingly.
Yes, I know, but I mean, ultimately, God has all of this and has been able to direct our paths and give us peace every single week. I drive to a St. Jude affiliate clinic. It's about an hour away from here. Months old, but she nurses from time to time. So I travel with the kids to Memphis sometimes every month, sometimes twice a month. In March, I went 2 weekends back to back. I was supposed to go on the 13th of April, but they have everything shut down right now, and no traveling until all of this is cleared up. So it's kind of a blessing I didn't have to travel all the way to Tennessee, but I still take him into Springfield every single Monday. Sometimes he has to go 5 days a week. And this past week he had a spinal tap. We are in week 35 out of 120 weeks, which is the 120 weeks started. It's called the final phase. It's called maintenance therapy. And it started the first week we came back from St. Jude the first time. And now we're on week 35 of 120. So just 85 more weeks to go. And then he's really a champ through it all, though. And he's always got a smile on his face. He's always excited to see the nurses. The nurses absolutely adore him. And he's very strong through it all. And he definitely, you can see it takes its toll from time to time on him, emotionally, not really physically. I do everything natural that I can, and we always have been a huge natural remedy fanatic.
Well, and that's part of why this is so expensive, because some people have asked, and I'm glad that people ask, because we want to be as transparent about this as possible. Pecks, you go to St. Jude, don't they cover everything? And while we're there, yes, but they don't cover our housing. They cover housing for small families because that's what they can afford to do. Yes. But we have 6 people in our family, so we have to provide our own housing. So there's that expense. But then also while we're at St. Jude's, they will take care of Nathan's treatment, but we're not there that often. And when we're back home, we have to take care of that. Plus, there's a whole bunch of natural treatments that we have to do that's very expensive.
Big into natural.
So you could probably explain some of that. But yeah, so there's a lot of expenses that just are not covered by St. Jude, and it is, oh my gosh, it is monumental. If it wasn't for you guys, I don't know what we would do. I honestly don't know if Nathan would even be alive. Like I really don't know. I don't know. But you can probably explain that more than I could.
I want to touch on that too.
Yeah, go for it.
But and the natural things that I'm doing, I do a lot of teas like dandelion root. I have a tea called SEX tea that's supposed to help with many different kinds of cancers, blood related, even tumors. I've heard and read a lot of testimonials that it shrinks tumors, and which Nathan doesn't have tumors, but because it's all blood related, it's from his bone marrow, which produces the white blood cells, which we produce too many white blood cells that cause just cancer, or as a result of his cancer. But I've been doing a lot of natural things that he responds well to. Even his oncologist can't get over how well his immune system is, considering everything. So I'm always detoxing, and I'm juicing every single day for him. There's so much, and it is expensive, but I want the absolute best for my son. I don't want him to I see a lot of other children go through this, and they're always so tired and they're so worn out, because a lot of it is it's overwhelming. But I want to do as much natural for him as possible without getting in trouble from everybody who wants to just pump him full of poison.
And this is just the one child. You have many children. You've been blessed with many children. There's a household. So it's each one deserving the attention that they need as well, splitting your time, trying to maintain a job. Look, I went through, my wife and I, something not to this extreme, but it could have been, in that we had almost 4 or 5 years, maybe longer, of her being undiagnosed with a disease that almost and could have killed her. But in those 4 and 5 years, we haven't been to as many doctors. We did see many different specialists, many different doctors along the way, many trips to the ER because she would have these episodes and spells. And that added up in just 5 years, with intermittent episodes to specialists, intermittent episodes to ER, ended up close to putting us in debt like $60,000, $70,000 within 5 years. And this was not a continual schedule. This was intermittent stuff that it was like that burdened us, that hurt us. And so when I knew what you guys were doing and what you were facing, I thought, man, these are our brothers and our sisters. We must be there for each other. If we can't, I said this before, what good are we? You guys have been such a blessing to us. You're, as much as you can be, your lives are an open book before us. You share, enough information out there, which for most people, they wouldn't share a quarter of what you guys share with your life, but being personalities that are visible, it's part of what you do. You do share more than what most people would, because, that's just what your ministry is to be in front of people. But that's still not an easy thing to do for parents and couples who, when they're facing hardship, right? You want to keep them protected, right? You want to keep them protected. How much do I share? This is still private. This is still personal information. I don't want people blabbing. So I know, I already know how hard that is, but yet you do. You go forth, you share it. You're out there, you're for us, you give yourselves to us. Christina, as long as you could, you were on Skywatch and doing that and doing all that too. But push comes to shove. Family's got to come first.
Yes.
I get it. You got to be a mom. So, you do that. And it's like, look, folks, these guys have given their lives to us. We have got to do something to give back. So it wasn't even a question of, when a marathon happened. My question was, that it resulted in a marathon is, what do I have that is going to, and available to me, like Josh Peck in a small camcorder in a trailer, what do I have available to me that I can use to bless my brothers? And it's like, I prayed and immediately had an answer. It's like, well, we have a platform. We have a lot of mutual friends. We can do this. This is easy. This is, part of my calling, what the Lord Father's done, and He's blessed it every single step along the way. And it's like, yeah, of course, this is it. So it wasn't even a question. And hopefully, hopefully it will continue to be a blessing, not just today as the marathon, but as, these aren't going away. Hopefully you're going to make these, Josh is going to download these too. So in case YouTube tries to delete us, which, at some point we know they will do it, Josh will download these. He's going to put them on the Renegade channel.
Absolutely.
But they're going to be there and available. And hopefully we can continue to give, just one example. Who knows tomorrow which one of us is going to be the same boat? The way my youngest son goes right now, it'll probably be him. In less than a year's time, he's broken his arm, and then just a month or two ago, he tried to saw off his pinky finger with a bandsaw at school. So it'll probably be that son, But all of us may have, situations where we as brothers and sisters, we must. I mean, it's a command that we should be there and help one another. It's how the world knows that we love Him and that we serve Him, by our love for one another. It's not a question. One of us, somebody else is going to be in that same boat. Maybe he is. And we must do this for each other. So that being said, I have another question for you, Christina. And I did listen to on my other computer while I was trying to reboot this one, some of what you said. But how much of the interviews did you guys get to see today? Did you get to see any of them today?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. We got to see. We mainly wanted to watch a lot of the intros because it's a weekend, so we got our kids too. But this gives us a really good opportunity to kind of share a few stories that we have with each one of your guests. And I cannot, both of us. I mean, we cannot thank these people enough. I mean, what a family! It's amazing to me. And maybe I can speak for you too.
No,
but
yes, absolutely.
It's amazing for us that when we were first getting started, like these were the people that we really looked up to. Every single person that you had on today, these were the people that we would look up to and learn from. And then eventually I got to interview, and both of us got to interview, and then now we get to work with, and like we're on the on the same kind of perceived level. I mean, and I say perceived because there is no level. Right. I mean, yeah. we're the ones.
They're colleagues. The word you're looking for is they're colleagues.
Colleagues, yeah. Because I think there's this perception, and I don't blame people for thinking this, but I think there's this perception where like, these people are kind of on the top, and then everyone else is the bottom. No. In Christian our audience. And so like we both naturally gravitate towards people who have that. I can't stand people that are in for it, in it for themselves. I can't get along with somebody like that, where they're in it because they want a name for themselves, or they only want money, or they only want, if they don't have a servant's heart, I literally cannot identify with that. And I don't get along with those people very well. So there are people that I don't talk to, or I don't interview, or I don't have on my show, or I'm not going to name any names, but I mean, there are people in that camp where it's just, if I don't see like any kind of servant's heart, like, what are you in this for? Yourself? You're just abusing people for your own benefit. Like, I can't identify with that. But the people that especially the people you've interviewed today and so many more that I get to work with now. I didn't realize when I first started. I mean, I was never really in this for myself. I mean, we always want to take care of our families and stuff, and that's a good Christian thing to want to do. I mean, you need to take care of your family or you're worse than an infidel, right? That's what Scripture tells us. So you got to be able to take care of your family. But at the same time, you need to realize, like, if you're getting into ministry, you are there to serve your audience. They are not there to serve you. And that's the biggest thing. So the people that you brought on have been amazing, because every single one of them, way more than I do, in my opinion, have this servant's heart, and I love that. So I'm looking at the list right now. I'd love to tell a couple stories about some of these people.
Go right ahead. Well, I have no deadline, and the night is ours to do whatever. We'll talk until we run out of stuff to talk about in this little get together.
Excellent. Well, great. We'll just run down the line, and then you jump in anytime, because I talk a lot. So
Yeah,
you can you feel free to interrupt me. Michael Heiser, he was your first interview today at 8 a.m. And Mike, I more than anybody else, he has shifted our paradigm on just how to look at the Bible. And what I realized is, like, it's not that we're going from more simplistic to more complex, because that's kind of what, like, the occult and New Age, and, like, that's what they do. They're like, you think you know this, but really it's this, and it's this complicated thing, and they redefine terms, and they do all this complicated stuff. That's not it. It's so simple. Mm-hmm. What we realized when we first heard of Dr. Michael Heiser is, we actually don't have to look at the Bible through a denominational lens. Like, it could just be what it is. Believe it or not, it could just be what it is. Like, it could just be a book explaining God, explaining Christianity, explaining Judaism in the Old Testament, and well, even in the New Testament too. But it could be just explaining how we reconcile to God, because we've had this problem of sin, and it could just be that. It doesn't have to be a science book. It doesn't have to answer all of our political questions. It wasn't written for that purpose. And so with Mike Heiser, like, when we first discovered him, I had such a deeper appreciation just for the Trinity, even, and there's just so much of his stuff where I'm like, oh my gosh, it makes so much sense, and yet it's so simple. Why didn't I see that before? Like, that just makes sense. Mike Heiser is awesome, but that's the intellectual side of Mike. What I love about Mike as a person is he's always just been a very good friend. Like, he's always been there for us. He's just been a good guy. I can talk to him about anything, ask him any question. He doesn't treat me like I'm an idiot because I ask him about something. He's not like that. And there's a lot of stuff going on, online that he's like full of himself or something. It's so ridiculous, because if you actually know Mike, for one thing, he does not present himself that way. But even if you knew him, I mean, he's just not that. He just tells you, like, this is what the truth is. This is his opinion, and then this isn't. And then that's just what it is. He draws hard lines between fact, opinion, and then just fiction. There's nothing wrong with that. Christina and I do the same thing. Mm-hmm. And but just on a personal level, I mean, Mike has really been a true inspiration to us, and he's given our family so much better theology than I think we would have ever had just on our own. So
yeah, interviewing him, I would have to say, when I met him for the first time, I was surprised how real he was.
Approachable, yeah.
Yes,
real.
Very, very real. Because I remember when we were still living in Michigan, when we were living in the apartment, watching videos of his, and like, wow, this guy's really smart. I've got to watch his videos 2 or 3 times to really fully grasp what he's talking about. But then when Josh and I met him for the first time, and when we started interviewing him, so approachable, just so real. And
I was intimidated at first, and I because I thought, like, okay, he's he's on another level. Like I thought that he was going to be like basically what the world has to offer because I just didn't know him yet, and I was intimidated and I was a little scared. Like I thought, all right, if I say something stupid, is he gonna, what is he gonna do? Totally fine. Like there was nothing to be scared about. I mean, he'll call out like bad ideas. Like he'll call out something if it's stupid, but he doesn't do it in a personal way. Like I've never felt like he thought that I was like a bad person or stupid if there's something we disagree on or something. It's never been like that. Like it's just like with him, I can just like ask him something and then he'll just tell me what he thinks about it, and it's that, and it's great. And that's on the intellectual level, but on the personal level, like he's just a very just good friend, just and a great brother in Christ. And
I think that's, just even in this first, little discussion about Mike, I think it's, you've kind of hit on something. I think that it's easy to do with anybody. And we see this a lot. It's calmed down a little bit, is because we see, or, people now see us, you get to see, them, a person talk or do an interview. You get to see some of their personality, and that is all you have to base any thoughts you have on what kind of a person they are. And we often paint this picture based on what is available to us publicly. And that is simply not enough of anyone.
That's right.
To get to actually know who somebody is.
That's right.
And what their heart is about, what kind of person are they like, what is their personality when they're out and about and talking or having a discussion with a brother or sister. And I think the truth of it is that for most of us, we would find, now there truly are some nasty people out there with a lot of hurt. Yeah. And, hurt people, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And those are people that are in it, they're in it for themselves. Yeah. Mike's not one of those guys, but there are people that are in it for themselves, and then they will come out because they will take a disagreement, like of their opinion, they will take it personally, and that's how that's how you can identify one of these people. If you disagree with somebody and that's all you're doing, and then they take it personally and they get really mean and nasty, that's somebody that's in it for themselves. That's all it is. That is pride. And I got to tell you, I have not seen. Mike's not perfect. No, none of us is. I personally have not seen an ounce of pride in that man. I mean, I just haven't personally. And I've been around him a lot. I've hung out with him. We've done interviews, and I just. I want to be able to view like the world and other people the way Mike Heiser does. He doesn't get like angry when people disagree with him. Like he'll hold true to like his beliefs, but he'll explain why. Like he always gives an explanation why he believes what he believes. He doesn't expect anybody to believe him just because he says so. He actually gives reasons why. And like I said before, like I'm sure. I've never really like drilled down into the nitty gritty of like all of our beliefs, but I'm sure there's things that I disagree with him on. I'm sure there are. There's things that no two Christians are going to have the same exact beliefs on every single point of everything. It's just not going to happen. So I'm sure there were things that we disagree on, but we've talked and we've had really good conversations. He's never personally insulted me or anybody that I know, but he does come out against ideas that he doesn't agree with. And I think that's okay if it's an idea. Now, if somebody takes personal offense to that, well, Mike Heiser's a bully because he said this bad thing about the thing that I believe. Well, why are you so, held to your, opinion, that you're going to get personally offended about? I mean, there's a million opinions that I have that I don't care if people insult. I literally host a show called Into the Multiverse. I have had so many people like make fun of like my belief in a type of multiverse. It's not the many worlds theory. It's a different thing, but it doesn't matter. But I've had a lot of people like it doesn't it doesn't bother me. It doesn't hurt my feelings. I don't think less of them for that. All I think is like, well, I have an opinion, they have theirs, and they might be right. I don't know. All I'm doing is sharing an opinion on a show. Like they could be right. Who knows? So let's talk about it. But I don't get personally offended about it if somebody is attacking an idea that I might believe in. Now, if somebody attacks me personally, I might get a little irritated about it. But even then, it's like, well, it's just some random person online. So I know we're going on and on about Mike, and we got a whole list. I promise we're not. I promise we won't do this for every single person on the list. But it's just with Mike, he's been so influential to us. It's been unbelievable. When she was in the delivery room for was it
Nathan?
Nathan?
No,
It was Nathan. But yeah, when she was pregnant with Nathan, she was about to deliver Nathan in the hospital room. We were watching together Mike Heiser videos because at this time I had just learned about the Jewish Trinity idea. I'd never heard of that before. The Trinity, like I never really could explain that well before this point. And then he was explaining how there's actually an ancient Jewish precedent for this idea of a Trinity and, the two powers in heaven, it's two but one and all of that stuff. And he's got hours and hours and hours online about that. I was just learning about that. While she was delivering Nathan, the kid that we're doing this whole marathon for, we were watching together. We were watching his Jewish Trinity videos together and just learning and loving it and just becoming more and more fascinated with God. And so, as much as Mike is a friend to me, none of the glory goes to Mike. It all goes to God, and Mike would agree with me there, I'm sure. But definitely in our lives, God has used Mike in a very influential and positive way, in a way that's brought us into a deeper appreciation for who God is and how he operates in our lives. Did we get cut off? Hello?
This is one of the things.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm just asking everybody to pray. We are just really being messed with tonight in this connection. And I have not had these kind of issues in a long time. And it makes no sense to me now. But
oh man, you're cutting out a lot. I can't even hear you.
We were talking about. Yeah, I know. I don't know what else to do about it other than try to go out and restart and make a new room and start over, which I may do. If this continues, I just may make a new room and we'll pick up where we left off. But
hey, we're up for that. Whatever you want to do, we're up for it.
So let me try to get through this, and then I just may do that, and we'll start again the second time. I'm just going to create a new room. Everybody who's watching in the audience, go into the second room. I'm going to get out of this one, and I'm going to recreate it. We'll be right back. So you're going to have to go into the next one that pops up.